Welcome everybody. It's very nice to have you here today. I have been thinking about you all and I really hope that everybody is doing well. We had a little break in our programs, but the next 3-week program is coming on September 17th, and the theme for it, the focus of it is freedom is our final destination. And removing the notion of seeker, search, and I. We have been speaking about freedom recently a lot, and these very powerful statements, statements that can take us, when taken literally, when taken in, when taken seriously, these are the statements that can take us to freedom, like freedom is our final destination. Like what we really want is to be here. Like for freedom, don't believe anything. Very, very powerful way to cut through the mind. And this time, of course, we are going to keep focusing on that, as well as, when we begin on our spiritual journey, we really believe that what we are seeking is somewhere out there. And initially, even with the clearest and purest of intentions, it really looks there's something out there, or there's somebody that knows, or there's something that we can experience, that is going to happen at some point. Because at that time, of course, we don't realize yet that what we are seeking is already here, that it is our very own true nature. And so, oftentimes in this journey, in this seeking, there forms a misunderstanding. And the misunderstanding is that it is about the search, that it is about making a certain particular effort, that it is about a certain particular practice, or a certain particular way of being, or a certain way of life, or a certain type of commitment. And oftentimes in that, there is a misunderstanding, because that search, that very action of search, that very, belief that that we are the seeker, that very, action that we take when we believe that we are seeking something that is not already here, that itself becomes an impediment to freedom. And I see this often with students that come to speak with me, that have, even a strong practice, right? And I see the challenges that they have had or have been going through with the practice, because sometimes, it takes a lot of will and effort, right? And sometimes they can commit to it in a stronger way, sometimes not, and that creates a disappointment and discouragement. And it's very interesting to see that the whole point, like we could work on, strengthening the will and making a stronger effort, but the whole point is that there really is a misunderstanding. And the misunderstanding is, and that's so over and over and over and over again, we find that what we really want, what we are really looking for, is already here. And that when we begin to touch on that, when we begin to touch on that, and that's when we realize, that's the removing of seeker and seeking and search, that's the, removal of that effort, that believes that there is going to be some other time, right? Some other place, some other situation. When we begin to touch on that realization, that recognition, that what we are looking for is already here. That becomes so very powerful, right? Because of course, naturally, and even as you are sitting here right now, as we are sitting here right now, of course, naturally, you can touch into that over and over and over and over again. You can find that here over and over and over and over again. Just because it is naturally here. Our true nature, closer than our breath. And that brings me to the overall theme of this 3-week intensive, which is freedom is our final destination. And I really want to maybe some other time speak a little more about this. Freedom is our final destination, but just to touch on that, because even after we recognize presence as our true nature, even after we know already, and before, of course, also, and even after awakening, we can still, entertain the notion that there is something there or something else, or that there's something for us to do, or that there's somewhere to go, or there's something to accomplish. And we have to be so adamant about that and so direct. Freedom is our final destination. We really need to embody that. We really need to realize that, that is what we really want. And if that is clear for you, if that is clear moment by moment by moment by moment, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter when, it doesn't matter who, it doesn't matter what, it doesn't matter how, it doesn't matter if it's this life, or it doesn't matter anything, right? Because in that moment when we know that, that's beyond time, right? That's beyond everything, or beyond anything. That's what we want to focus on. So I'm looking forward to our time together, regardless if you are just beginning, if you are just starting on this path, or if you have been at it for a long time, or maybe even you are experiencing that dissatisfaction, of having been on it for a long time and still, that this disappointment and dissatisfaction of not knowing. I want to invite you to join me. And in these 3-week programs, if you are a new student to me, you can come for free for the first week. We also have a special price for you for the 3 weeks if you would like. And of course, if you enjoy these videos, please like and subscribe and share. I really appreciate all your comments, all your sharing, all your likes. And I'm very much looking forward to our time together.